Margaret Humphreys is a British social worker and author. In 1987, she investigated and brought to public attention the government's Home Children program. This involved forcibly relocating underprivileged British children to Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and other Commonwealth countries. Her heroic work with the Child Migrants Trust was made into the 2011 feature film Oranges and Sunshine. Hello, let's just get started on some questions. How did this issue of the Home Children program and child migrants reach you? How did you find out about it?
Right, well that was about 35 years ago, and I was a qualified practicing social worker in a city, and someone wrote to me from Australia and said that she'd been born in my hometown and that she'd been sent with lots of other children to the other side of the world, to Australia, when she was about 5 years of age, without parents, without family, without anyone. And that she was now in her 30s, she didn't have a birth certificate, and she wanted to get married. So the question was, could I help her find her mother? But she said in the letter to me that I'm an orphan, so I assumed that she didn't have parents. And there, in a sense, just answering that letter to a stranger, and she sent the letter to me and I was a stranger, lifted the lid off the lives of 130,000 children that had been sent from the United Kingdom to parts of the Commonwealth as young children. Mm-hmm. So it was one letter and one reply.
One letter did it all.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So why did you become so involved in this issue? Obviously the letter, but was there just something else? Was it personal to you?
No, not at all. Not personal at all. It was, entirely professional in that sense. That I was just aghast, I think, like anyone would be, to think that if this has just happened to one person, just imagine it's you or your brother or sister, and they're told that their families are dead, that they have no one, and sent to the other side of the world, where they're abused, where they're lied to, where they're deceived. How could anybody turn their back on that? And at that point, I thought this was one person. It turned out to be thousands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did you raise awareness about this and bring it to the public eye?
That's an important question. How do you bring something from the past that people are still living with every day to politicians and who don't really want to know, and to an establishment who already knew that this had happened to all these children but had kept quiet for years and for decades. So you're quite right, you have to raise public awareness of these historic crimes against children, because that's what this is essentially. And through the media, through documentaries, through people giving their own testimonies, bearing witness to the world, and that's how you raise awareness of things that the establishment at times would rather forget.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What are you most proud of, or what is your greatest achievement in your work?
That's a difficult question because there's still so much to do. Mm-hmm. But I think, obviously, the raising awareness of it. I think there's some pride in the fact that there's been 2 national apologies. So from the United Kingdom, Gordon Brown, the then Prime Minister, apologised on behalf of the nation in 2010, and the same in Australia. So that was recognition that this had happened, that the children, now adults, were telling the truth, and that was the day that they were believed. So I think that's quite something when a nation, when countries can face up to their, at times, awful past.
Mm-hmm. So how many families were affected by this program?
Well, thousands. So thousands of children from 1945 onwards were sent mainly in the post-war to Australia. So we're looking at thousands. So that's thousands of children, thousands of mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, aunties and uncles. So the consequences of sending one child away and deceiving it is huge. It's not just the child, the ramifications, the consequences go on.
No. Were there ever times where you lost hope or faced challenges? What were they?
The challenges are continuous. There are challenges today. Of course, in this post-truth time, we're post-truth now. We know the truth. So what are we going to do? What do we need to do? So there are challenges all the time. Justice is very slow.
Were there any times where you thought of giving up or you just felt like you couldn't do it anymore?
I don't think so. I don't think so. How could you do that?
Yeah. Did the government ever try to prosecute you or endanger you for what you were trying to do?
I'm not their favourite person. I think we can take that. No, I don't think so. You have to remember that governments and those in authority, the establishments, whoever they are, wherever they are, always knew that these children had gone. Always knew. But never expected them to come back.
Yeah.
That we profoundly, all of us, want to know who we are, where we come from, who we belong to. It's a pretty basic human right.
So how significant do you think the movie Oranges and Sunshine is to people becoming aware of the issue?
Well, I think it's reached a large audience, a global audience. It tells the story of child migration through the experiences and the eyes of the children. It gives us a broader view of them. We see them as children and we see them as adults. I think it gives a realistic account of how it unfolded. So yes, I think there's a much greater level of awareness. And of course, shame. There should be shame. We should all feel shame, really. So yes, I think it's I think it's done that.
If there's one thing you wish to instill in students, what is it?
Oh, always be vigilant. Never take things for granted. Always investigate and research. Believe the unbelievable.
Should we aim to be very critical of what we hear?
I take that for granted, that you will be critical and that you will look at these historic events that have long-term consequences and you will be sensitive to that.